of lots of countries right now, but I think it's the point that he would even say that.
Yeah, and of course...
And knowing the fear it would bring out in people.
Yeah.
And that is pretty vile.
And this, of course, comes in the wake of what he said last week to anyone who would consider interfering from the outside. If you do, you will face consequences greater than any you have faced in history. We're going to be talking to military and nuclear experts about exactly what that might mean this morning, because, of course, it was Putin's intention that that would cause alarm. We're going to see what the
there is an argument, isn't it, that it's a sign of his desperation, really, that the war isn't quite going to plan. They haven't yet taken over one single city in Ukraine, and this is just within a few days he's now talking about nuclear attacks. That sounds desperate, but we'll get all the expert analysis throughout the show and speak to people on the ground, families, doctors, protesters, a real varied number of people who we'll be speaking to throughout the morning here on Good Morning Britain.
Well, the Ukrainian President Zelensky has said the next few hours are a crucial period for his country. In a call with the Prime Minister last night, Boris Johnson has promised to do all he can to ensure that further military aid reaches Ukrainian forces.
Yeah, it comes as President Putin orders Russia's nuclear forces to be put on high alert. We'll speak to our correspondents in Poland and back here at Downing Street. But first, our chief correspondent, Richard Gaisford,
had said that if Britons were planning to go to Ukraine to fight, then she would not block the programme on LBC. And you had a large number of people phoning in to say, we're going to go. Harry said.
Susanna, we have all been there. It was taken to mark International Women's Day next week, and one of the stars of that photo is, of course, oh, Susanna, I think we all want a Ben Shepherd. We can just wear a Ben Shepherd.
I know, and we have this marvellous thing, as you probably do in the studio, where if there is green behind you and you're wearing green, then the incredible people in the gallery can project Ben Shepherd onto you whenever you need him.
Whenever.
It's absolutely fantastic.
Because I've got my blankie that I hold on to, and
that's covered in
me very much.
Yeah. It's popular on Coronation Street, I understand, as well. Ben
Shepherd loves it. I just think it's great. Now, look, International Women's Day.
Yes.
We're celebrating that, of course.
Aren't we just?
Wasn't it great to get the same day? That was astonishing.
Yes, I think...
There was a wee bit of...
I know, Well, of course, COVID meant that, obviously, being all together might have been a little tricky. So with some clever planning, we have this incredible photograph of all these women, and those are just the women on ITV daytime.
I know.
I mean, it's remarkable, isn't it? What an incredible sisterhood.
And they're just the women on screen. We've got so many that allow us to do our job.
Totally
working away behind the scenes.
Because we on everybody behind the scenes.
Totally.
It's very nice to have a lovely pink or red dress on and appear in the photograph. But you're absolutely right. The directors, the producers, the people behind the cameras, everybody out in the field.
Great picture.
Doing incredible work.
International Women's Day, there's lots to celebrate, but we've still got a long way to go, haven't we? When you think about things like, equal pay, and you think about things like, well, just equality generally, but we have made great strides, haven't we?
Huge strides, and I think that photograph just shows how far we've come, that we're just kind of awash with talent.
Yeah, it's great.
But, I mean, reflecting on the pictures from Ukraine, the situation where the men 18 to 60 have to stay behind, and the women, I know a number of women are staying behind. We spoke to an MP, a female MP this morning, armed with a Kalashnikov, and said she is prepared to use it. But so many women and children are now, they can get those supplies to those women and children.
Think about that. I mean, I was thinking, you've got 3 boys. I mean, they're 3 young men now.
Yes.
They're young men.
Yes.
My daughter's 27 years old, and looking at the people in Ukraine, they're us. They are us. And our kids would be having to fight
Yeah.
They'd be having to defend their country. I mean, it really brings it home to you, doesn't it?
And it makes you reflect on any conflict actually around the world.
Yes.
Could be us,
It
couldn't
could.
it?
It
And
could.
it could be our sons who would be required to take up arms and fight. And you do wonder what you would feel in that situation. There was a moment yesterday, Lorraine, and I'm sure, like me, you felt physically sick when you heard and saw President Putin say to his 2 generals, put the nuclear weapons on high alert. I mean, that's a moment none of us thought we would experience.
I remember that as a kid in school.
Yeah.
You know, that was a fear that we had all during the 70s and part of the 80s, you know, when people joined CND. And I honestly thought...
We'd beyond it.
That we'd developed enough as human beings that wouldn't be a problem anymore. And when you see that, because of course he's being isolated and cornered, and that's when people are the most dangerous.
Yes, absolutely.
It is frightening.
And I'm sure people watching will be frightened this morning. We spoke to the Armed Forces Minister, James Heappey.
Yes.
He said, don't be scared. It's a tactic, and we have the deterrent, and we have the defences.
And I think you're right about the fact that we shouldn't be cowed and frightened, because then, you know, then he wins. Yeah. He's won, even if he hasn't won. If he's making people scared. I think they just thought they were going to roll into Ukraine and look at these amazing people, astonishing people. That's part of the job that is a real privilege, isn't it?
Yes.
Being able to talk to people like that and bringing that news, which of course you do every single day.
Yeah, you're right, it is a privilege. I totally agree.
Yeah.
Because, you know, we are sitting in the comfort of our studio talking to people whose lives are at risk and under threat, but they are prepared to spend that time talking directly to us in order to get that story out there. And credit also to our reporters on the ground, you know, who are doing a great job to reflect the experience of the Ukrainian people right now.
Very much so. Now, when you are presenting right now, it is a little bit like speed dating. There has been a fair few fellas...
TV Tinder.
It is TV Tinder. There's been quite a few.
Yeah, there's my good friend Rob Rinder. I'm normally out in Ibiza with him. There's Ed Balls, who we know, of course, having been part of the government. Mr. Campbell as well. I mean, Richard Madeley, Adil Ray, Bill Turnbull, Richard Bacon, Martin Lewis. Goodness me,
And Uncle Tom Cobley and all.
Where does it stop?
I know, but do you quite like that? I mean, it must be quite difficult though, because you've got to have a really good rapport with someone. It's great. You and Bill, brilliant, and you and Rob Rinder know each other really well.
Yes.
And you can tell, you know, you really can. But obviously, you've been getting to know these guys so well over the years.
And as the late great Bruce Forsyth would say, they're all my favourites. Because to me, it's important, whoever's on screen, the relationship has to work.
Of course it does.
And so, you know, they are all talented in their own ways, and they've all got a wealth of experience, unique experience to bring to the programme. And it's, again, it's a privilege working with them all.
It is. No, that's exactly the right thing to say, and it's from the heart, and I know it's true. Just keep doing what you're doing, Susanna.
Thank you very much.
Just keep
doing what you're doing. And to all those brilliant women at ITV Daytime as well, what a celebration.
I love that photo. That's a photo to be treasured and put in the loo.
And analysed as well.
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Great to see you. Really good to see you. Right after